What is up, my dashing dudes? I am the Hans TV, and it's Tuesday, so what better day than to bring you some Kevins? It's r/stories about Kevin. Our first post for the day comes from Iron Oxide 1510. Kevin goes to college. My college roommate freshman year. He's the kind of Kevin that should have died at 10, but is somehow in his 20s. The most infuriating part was that he's the only child in a family that's so rich he'll never need to work a day in his life. I got trapped in a contract that had me paying rent on the place regardless of if I stayed and couldn't afford to move out. Drug dealer that lives next door. I have this stuff. It's supposed to be in synthetic opioid, but I don't trust the guy that gave it to me. Kevin pulls a pipe made from a Mountain Dew can out of nowhere and attempting to smoke that white powder before the dealer even finishes. Chases it down with a swig of isopropyl alcohol. Later that night, Kevin drank an entire bottle of spiced rum by himself, went to bed, got up and peed all over his bag like a huge urinal, and slept in it again. Kevin traded a $400 speaker for 3 fake tabs of acid he only found out were fake when he was arrested for them, but couldn't be convinced due to them not being potent enough to do anything. Kevin somehow had a girlfriend back home. They agreed to have an open relationship while he was at school, but he dumped her whenever she mentioned having coffee with another guy. During that time, Kevin somehow managed to seduce 2 to 3 different girls a week and still thought he was the victim of a cheater. Kevin got the clap 4 times, twice from the same girl who wouldn't get it treated because she thought the nursing students ran the university health center. Kevin faked a cough and somehow got prescribed opioid-based cough syrup from the university health center. He drank the entire bottle in 15 seconds. Kevin didn't believe that isopropyl alcohol was actually toxic and drank it by the pint. Kevin found possibly the single biggest Kavina alive. She was both a pansexual LGBTQ rights activist and a card-carrying member of the KKK. Kevin got herpes from her. Kevin got paranoid he was going to be arrested after hotboxing all of someone else's weed and pulled the fire alarm at 3 a.m. Kevin got sued for child support. Kevin tried to change his major to one that the school didn't offer. Kevin got in trouble for taking pictures of Jehovah's Witnesses and tried to argue freedom of the press. He wasn't even remotely affiliated with a news agency. Kevin woke up at 4 p.m. and thought it was 4 a.m. Kevin went to any given class maybe once a week and didn't understand how he could be failing. Kevin's GPA was 1.2. I'm still amazed it wasn't lower. This was all during 1 year. Edit. This was 2015 to 2016 school year. Last I heard, Kevin was sacrificing goats to Dionysus on his family vineyard and unironically believes the police go out of their way to harass white upper-class Protestants. He ended up majoring in photography. He also supported Bill Clinton for president in 2016. Not Hillary, Bill. How is this man still alive? He should have died, like he was drinking isopropyl alcohol. What the hell? This next post comes from The Tree Out Your Window, a female Kevin in my health class. I was in sophomore year of high school in a required health class. It was the first day of classes and our teacher was a big fan of those really awful getting to know you games. This one was called Human Bingo. Essentially, you had a bingo card with different experience or traits like a person with a brother or something similar to that. One of the bingo squares was a person who could name a Supreme Court justice. I was a really nerdy high schooler, so I was able to fill that square. This prompted Kavina to ask if Judge Judy counted. I thought she was kidding and started laughing. She was serious. A few weeks later, we were talking about STDs because, you know, it's health class, and Kavina says, I want to name my daughter Chlamydia. She was great. Alright, so Chlamydia is a dumbass name. But did you know there's people who are actually named Hyman out there? I'll let you guys figure that one out if you don't know already. Our next post comes from Tiny Septic Box Sam. The lids manager said I didn't need stitches. I worked a horrible food service job in high school. One of my Kevins was an endearingly idiotic Kavina. One morning she was working alone and she was opening the morning delivery with our incredibly dull and crappy box cutter. But what she didn't know is that the shift manager had just replaced the crappy blade with a freshly sharpened blade. Mistake number 1. Kavina was cutting towards herself, and towards her wrist no less. So she ended up with a nasty cut right below her palm. It obviously bled profusely. Mistake number 2. Instead of going to security, we worked in a mall, or calling 911, Kevina decided to walk over to Lid's next door to ask the manager if the injury was bad. Also a Kevin by the looks of it. Manager Kevin deigned her bleeding wrist non-threatening and gave her a band-aid for it before sending her back to work. When she got home, her dad ripped her out for trusting the Lid's manager's judgment and also for nearly killing herself before taking her to the hospital to get her 12 stitches. I love that girl dearly, but I really hope she never decides to work in any sort of dangerous environment. The Lid's manager said I didn't need stitches. 12 stitches later. Our next Kevina comes to us courtesy of Astros Fans 96. A Kevina in my high school culinary arts class. This was a few years ago, but I took a cooking class in high school, mostly just to fill a period. The girl in this class was seriously the dumbest human I have ever met. You're going to think I'm kidding when I tell you what she did, but I promise I'm not. First off, the teacher asked us to list off different spices or herbs. Her hand shoots up immediately, and when the teacher calls on her, she shouts, "Breadsticks!" To this day, I have no idea what she meant, but she was truly confused when the teacher told her it was wrong. 2. Every time we went to cook, we were required to wear these chef's jackets. Basic jacket. Put it on, button in the front, no big deal. I don't think she ever put it on without help. Number 3. We were talking about eggs. Ways to cook them, how they're farmed, etc. When the teacher mentioned the first step of the process, the chicken physically laying the egg, she burst into tears. Apparently, she had no idea that eggs were baby chickens and was horrified that we would eat them. Don't know how she went 15 years without knowing about the eggs. This bitch is 15 years old? Number 4. More than once, I watched her try to take something out of the oven without an oven mitt. Always got burned, never learned. I'm pretty sure you learn not to take stuff out of the oven at like 4. Number 5. Once we were supposed to make grilled cheese. Someone in her group goes to put the cheese in between the bread and throw it in the pan. And she screams, "What are you doing? It's grilled cheese, not grilled bread." Someone had to explain to her that you don't put the cheese straight in the pan. And number 6. Apparently she also thought black peppercorns were the seeds from bell peppers. So you're telling me that this girl was 15 years old and didn't know that oven equals hot. Oh my god, I am so worried for our human race. This next post comes from Shanivi, some Kevins, dinosaur bones, and NASA. A friend of mine posted a comment on his Facebook. For those of you who don't want to click the link, there's 2 dinosaurs talking, and the first one starts with, "If we bury ourselves, we'll turn into oil." Kevin number 1 responded with, "Too bad bones don't turn into oil." I don't know this Kevin, so it's possible he was being facetious and not a Kevin at all. Edit. I learned a thing about how oil is created, and this is not a Kevin thing to say at all, but I'm leaving it in as it sets up Kevin number 2's main Kevinism. However, a verified Kevin responded to that with, "I mean, if it was true, why wouldn't we harvest animal bones for this?" OP said, "Kevin 2, do you think dinosaurs are real?" To which Kevin number 2 responded, "Honestly, not really, but not something I'm betting my life on. My statement still stands. If it's just bones decomposed, how could scientists not figure out how to recreate the process?" Then a third Kevin popped in to ask, "My real question is, how can NASA tell me about the core of a planet millions of light years away, but soon as somebody gets kidnapped, they send me an Amber Alert?" OP was probably regretting his post when he asked, "Kevin 3, NASA sends you Amber Alerts?" Kevin number 3's response was long and crazy making. "Possibly. If they control satellites, that means they control cell phone towers to spread signals that get transmitted into important information. My point is that they have the technology to see a planet's core and describe it in detail millions of miles away, then why can't they find a missing child kidnapped hours ago? Doesn't really matter who sent the alert. Billions of dollars funded to NASA to show us things we'll never see in our lifetime, but can't fix or at least help with real issues on Earth?" No words. I have no words. Guys, this subreddit gives me a headache, and it makes me want to commit seppuku. Our final post for the day, thank God, comes from Mr. Joe Green 94, prostate cancer. Here are some small stories. Picture a typical stoner. That is my ex-coworker Kevin. Number 1. He was always bragging and telling too much about his life during lunch. Every single time he was bragging about being some kind of god of pleasure. One day, one of my friends got tired and said, "Hey, what about the time you used the back door with your girlfriend and she couldn't handle it? It was all over the bed and you vomited on her back. I know because she told me that was the reason why you guys broke up." And she said it loud enough that everyone could hear. Kevin was humiliated and never spoke about his life again. Moral of the story, if you don't want everyone to know your embarrassing moments, keep them to yourself. Number 2. Kevin was always making up stories to get out of work. Getting the flu, catching gastroenteritis 2 months in a row, a family member at the hospital, but the bosses always seemed to believe it until that day when he was fired. He said his father was at the hospital because he had cancer. He gets the day off. A few weeks later, he says that his mother had cancer. The dishwasher guy started to press him more and more and asked what kind of cancer. Kevin freaks out and said prostate cancer. The dishwasher guy, being street smart, said, "Guess I really don't know about women's bodies, because I honestly believe that they didn't have prostates." He was fired not long after. Moral of the story, if you want to lie, keep your story short and believable. He was missing so many days of work, and yet he was complaining he had no money. Well, that sounds about right. Kid wants to be lazy, but get money? Nah, that's not how that works. Well, anyway, my dashing dudes, that's going to do it for today's episode of r/StoriesAboutKevin. If you like the stories, I'll link them down in the description below. And if you like the video, subscribe, share, drop a like, and a comment down below with what you'd like to see me read next. We're close to 200 right now, guys. We're at 153 as last I counted. So, let's see if we can get that to 200. I really want to grow with you guys and see what we can do with this channel. But with that being said, I will see you in the next video.